We can use the ancient tools of Tantra to create deep friendship between our humanity, our spirituality, and our sexuality. Stay tuned to this interview with Tantra expert Grant Shepard to learn tools so that you can do that in your own life.
If you've ever been disillusioned, disappointed, or discouraged in your search for love, and you know there has to be a better way to find the healthy, soul-filling love you've always longed for, then you've discovered the podcast for you. I know, as Ken's work personally has led me to find the love of my life. So here's your host of Deeper Dating, Ken Page.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Deeper Dating Podcast. I'm Ken Page, and I'm a psychotherapist. I'm the author of the best-selling book, Deeper Dating, and the co-founder of deeperdating.com, an online environment where single people can meet in a way that's warm, inspiring, and connected. And today, I am thrilled to be able to share this interview with you with Grant Shepard, who is a dear friend and a personal teacher, and who is just an enlightening expert on love, Tantra, sexuality, and the deep integration of spirituality and sexuality. And in this episode, we'll also be talking lots about Tantra for single people, not just for couples. So in every episode, I'll be sharing with you the greatest tools that I know to help you find love and keep it flourishing and heal your life in the process, because the skills of dating are nothing more than the deep skills of intimacy, which are the most precious skills of our lives. And if you want to learn more about the deeper dating path to real intimacy, just go to deeperdatingpodcast.com. And if you sign up for my mailing list, you'll get free gifts and learn more about how to use these ideas to transform your search for love. And you'll also find a complete transcript of every episode. Also, just want to say that everything that I share in this podcast is educational in nature. It's not medical or psychiatric advice or treatment. And if you think you might need help, please do seek professional help concerning any significant psychological or psychiatric conditions that you might have. And finally, if you like what you're learning here, I would love it if you could subscribe and leave me a review. So thank you so much for that. And without further ado, let's jump in. Now I get to introduce you to my dear friend and teacher, Grant, because I will share with you that Grant is the teacher to me and my husband, Greg, and has taught us just, tons of beautiful, beautiful, deep connection work. So thank you, Grant, for that. And I'm just so excited to share his knowledge base with you. Thanks.
Thank you too.
So Grant, Grant is not just a teacher of Tantra, he's a deep, deep student of meditation for decades now, which is part of the reason I so deeply respect his work. And for 20 years, he traveled the world, living in Australia and the US and India, and serving in spiritual communities dedicated to meditation and the enlightenment process. And along the way, he got a master's in religion from the University of Sydney, specializing in Kashmir Shaivism. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, good. Which is an Indian tantric philosophy of consciousness. And so Grant delivers ancient Eastern spiritual wisdom grounded in modern practical teaching to diverse people, both singles and couples in New Zealand and throughout the world. And his practice, and I can attest to this, is heartfelt, kind, safe, practicable, practical, doable, and fun. And the teachings and the practices that he shares bring deep change and healing to his students. So welcome, Grant.
Oh, Ken, thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
It's great to have you, and I'm really excited to have the community learn from you, especially the singles community, because so many people are taught all these tantric practices for you and your partner. But what about when you're single? maybe you're not even dating. How can you integrate your deep spirituality and your sexuality and your romance and your capacity to love before you find your partner and while you're looking? So
Mm,
let's just begin with, if you could just give everybody a brief overview on what Tantra is.
sure. So I love what you were saying about connecting as a single person, because in Tantra, that's very, very important. A lot of the time when I'm teaching at retreats or workshops, one-on-one, people will say to me, intimacy means into me you see.
Mm,
And I say, yes, that's true. That's absolutely true on one level. And also, there's someone very important that we tend to miss when we say that. Intimacy is into me you see. We forget ourselves.
mm,
We forget to look at ourselves first. And so what Tantra actually does is it teaches us how to look at ourselves first, how to examine our heart first, how to
mm,
understand what we want, what it is that we want out of a situation, out of a relationship. And it's really quite paradoxical, but the deeper we do that, the deeper we go into ourselves, the more available we become to relationship. We're much more available because we're looking at ourselves first.
mm.
So that's a great question that you brought up, Ken. So thank you for that. Now, Tantra. Let's talk about Tantra versus Neo-Tantra. Neo-Tantra is something that's relatively recent, and it's a lot about practices that you can do with your partner, breath and sound and movement, and it can be very, very valuable. And a lot of it is also, there's elements of talk therapy in there. There's elements of being very, very centered, learning how to be centered. So it can be very, very valuable. Classical Tantra or traditional Tantra is quite different. But the great thing about classical Tantra, which started around about 3,000 to 5,000 years ago, is it honors sex. It gives sex its seat. It actually says it's something important. Don't push it away. Don't not look at it. It's something that's very important and nourishing to you. And if you didn't have this energy, none of us would be walking around on this planet,
Mm.
because the sexual energy is the thing that creates all of us. So Tantra started about 3,000 to 5,000 years ago in the Indus Valley in India. And from there, it developed into a beautiful, beautiful practice that encompasses all of life, not just sex. And it was a reaction against, oh, God only belongs to the priestly caste. It was saying, actually, consciousness or understanding yourself belongs to you. It belongs to everybody. And here are
Mm.
things you can do to understand that. And so there's lots of practices. There's breath, there's mantra. Of course, there's working with your sexuality in a conscious way. And I love it. I love it. I started practicing Tantra itself about 25 years ago, meditation longer than that. And what it's done for me is really, it's connected me deeply to myself. And I have a deeper understanding of my life as a result. Tantra as a term literally means technology. It's tools. It's
Mm.
tools to help us expand our awareness. And these tools work, and they're simple, and they can be done on a day-to-day basis. You know, we don't have to run away to the mountaintop. I was lucky. I got the opportunity to do that. I made the decision in my life to do that and live in an ashram. But so many of us don't have that. We need to be in the world. So Tantra teaches us how to do that in the world, how to understand ourselves at a deeper level.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Grant's going to be teaching everybody exercises that you can take away with you and begin to practice in this episode. So that's, part of me wants to ask you to talk about meditation, but I want to ask
Sure.
you something else first. I want to ask you
Mhm.
to just speak I guess any of the key thoughts that you want to share for single people, first of all, who maybe are just wanting to grow sexually, wanting to
Mm.
grow in terms of, I'll say more specifically, integrating their sexuality with their deep spirituality, which God knows we are not taught. Can you just speak about the kind of practices that do that and just kind of give us some overview of what those tools look like?
Sure, sure. So, for everybody who is watching this podcast, listening, the most important thing is to like yourself, to take the time to really, really begin to like yourself, including all parts of yourself. And often in the West, we're given mixed messages about sexuality. You know, have as much sex as you can, but if you do, you're a bit of a slut. Now, it's unfortunate but true. And what happens is it tends to sink into our mind, and then we start to believe it. So the important thing to do is start to really accept our sexuality and realize that it's a natural part of us. And that goes for any sexuality, you know, gay, straight, bi, intersex, whatever it is. It's about deeply accepting ourselves. So practices we can do. We can start to connect with our heart. And a lot of people say, oh, how do I do that? There's a very simple exercise I'm going to teach you about breathing into your heart center. And what that does is it brings us to presence, brings us to awareness. And then we can use that in our day-to-day life, you know, in our interactions with others, in our intimate sexual interactions. It brings us to a state of deeper connection within ourselves. And yeah, that's basically it. Learn to like yourself. And even if the mind pops up sometimes and the inner critic, which it will, just look at the inner critic and then put it to one side and go, you know what? I like myself.
You know, I like the difference between liking yourself and loving yourself because
Ha,
I
ha,
mean, they're
ha.
both, yeah, they're both very different experiences. And for me,
Yes,
that experience of loving myself is this very visceral, wonderful flow feeling. Liking myself can be a little bit harder,
that's
actually.
right.
Not that loving myself cannot be hard in a lot of different ways too, but liking yourself kind of means that you like and you accept the quirky and sometimes painful and sometimes not so easy parts of our personality, like liking oneself as a whole, like being in a place where you feel like I'm a friend to myself. That's an
That's
amazing,
right.
amazing state. And
Yep.
so I'd love to, would you mind leading us in that practice? Let's jump right in. Let's teach people an exercise to do just what you described.
Sure, I'd love to do that.
Great.
Okay, so everybody take a comfortable posture. And if you like, you know, whether you're sitting on a chair or sitting on the floor, if you like, just say to yourself gently before we start this, I am doing this practice because I truly like myself. And then what I'd like you to do is close your eyes, and relax the area between your eyebrows. Let go of all that tension, all the to-do list. I've got all this shopping to do. I've got this to do. Christmas is coming. Oh, this, you know, lots of things. Let go of your to-do list and just relax. Relax. Relax your jaw. Relax your whole being. And your spine is gently elongated. Gently elongated. Now turn your awareness to your breath. Breath comes in and the breath goes out. The breath comes in and the breath goes out. The breath comes in and the breath goes out. And now place your awareness in the middle of your chest, right in the middle of your chest. In the tradition of Tantra, this is your heart center. This is what's called a chakra, which is a wheel of energy, divine, beautiful energy. And right in the center of your chest is your heart chakra, your heart center. Now begin to breathe into your heart center. Breathe in. And now breathe out from your heart center. Breathe out. Breathe into your heart center. And breathe out from your heart center. Breathe into your heart center. Breathe out from your heart center. And continue to breathe in this way while you bring to mind a time in your life when you felt completely loved and you liked it. You liked yourself. Bring that experience to mind. It might be being with a loved friend, or receiving some kind words from a stranger, or patting a puppy dog. Anything where you felt love, giving and receiving love, and you liked the experience. You liked yourself in that moment. Now feel that. Feel that loving energy. Feel that light. And place it in your heart center. Feel it deeply in your heart center. And now breathe into the heart center. Breathe in and breathe out. Feeling that heightened, loving, liking energy. Breathe in and breathe out. Feel that loving, liking energy in the heart and breathe in and breathe out. We're going to do this one more time. Breathe into the heart center. Now when you breathe out from the heart center, feel that love pour into all of your body. Breathe out. All that love, all that light pouring through your body. It is you. This is your loving, liking energy. This is you. Feel it all through your body. From the top of your head to the tip of your toes, you are saturated in your love, in your natural light of life. Now holding on to that feeling, keeping it very gently, and take your time with this. Bring your awareness back to the room. And when you're ready, keeping that love and like feeling, you can gently open your eyes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that. That was just really lovely. I got a few things I want to say about it, but I'm sure you'd like to say a little bit about what that meditation was, and then I'll jump in and share my thoughts too.
Sure, Ken. Yeah. So this is based on a dharana. And a dharana is a tantric technique where we actually use our subtle senses, or we use our senses to focus our mind on something uplifting, to focus our mind deep within ourselves. So it's a very powerful way to train our senses to go back over and over again to the deep core of ourself, which is always about acceptance, always about love, always about liking ourselves. So that's what it is, a dharana, a centering technique from the tantric tradition.
As someone who has meditated for many, many years, many decades, actually, I just want to say that I kind of have a particular appreciation of this meditation because it's not just about universal love. It's about liking yourself. It's not just about unconditionally, fully loving every cell of your being. It's about like learning to like yourself. And it's
Mm,
always a mixed bag, this liking yourself, loving yourself thing. It just always is. And so, but what I love about it is it cultivates friendliness. And what I
mm,
love about your tantric teaching more than anything is that you begin with friendliness as a path to love, as a path to spirituality, and a path to integration. So this was
mm.
just like a friendly kind of like dharana. And I guess the other thing that I think about it is, all right, so if this is going to move from meditation to a sense of connection to our body, our spirituality, our sensuality, and our sexuality, there is no better way than starting with friendliness. So I
That's
just
right.
really love that.
Yes, thank you. And it's so insightful of you to say that, because Tantra teaches that we can't actually do the practice unless we have genuine friendliness towards ourselves
I
and towards
love
the
that.
person we're practicing with. Yeah.
I love
It's
that.
very, yeah, it naturally spreads too, Ken. It's like,
Hmm.
if we're feeling that friendliness and that joy and that liking ourselves, we do pet the dog, we do smell the
Right.
rose, we
Right.
do have a deep hug, we do have a smiling face, we do have friendly words to say.
Oh, I
So it
love
creates,
that.
yeah, so it creates a beautiful, beautiful world.
That is great.
Mm,
That is great. That's a definition of spirituality and intimacy based on friendliness.
yeah,
Um, I love that. I really,
yeah,
really love that.
with ourselves first. Because
With
often
ourselves
what we
first.
tend to do
Yeah,
is we go,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to be friendly to that person and that, and I've got to be a good person to that person and that person. And well, what about you? Where do you fit into this equation? I'll be
yes.
friendly and nice to this person over here, but oh gosh, I'm going to say some really terrible things in my head about myself right now, which I'd never accept from anybody else. And then I expect
Yeah,
to feel good about myself. Doesn't work that
yes.
way.
Yes, yes, yes. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the wounding that we
Yeah.
all experience when we do that to ourselves. I mean, you articulated it
Mm,
so well. And then that wounding combined with this obligation to be good to the world. And then
mm,
talking about sex, I
mm.
think that if we're not sexually in a friendly space with our own being, sex becomes something else, and that something else hurts. It's
Yeah.
toxic in some ways. And
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on bringing friendliness. This is what I'd love to hear some thoughts on bringing this friendliness into sexuality, and particularly for people who are single, who would
Mhm.
love a loving relationship, who are out in this dating world, which is like, I call it a culture of unkindness. How can we bring this energy to our dating, our sexuality, our search for love? Love to hear any thoughts on that. And even, as this episode goes on, maybe even a practice to help people do that.
Sure, sure. What a wonderful question, Ken.
Mm,
I would say the first thing to do is to really step into seeing your greatness and seeing the greatness of the person you're with. Because essentially that's what kindness is. It's saying, I'm here, you're here, let's play. Let's play. In Tantra, there's this definition called Shakti. Shakti is energy, Shakti is movement, Shakti is dynamism, Shakti is beauty. Shakti creates everything. In Tantra, we see that in each other. We see that energy in each other and we start to understand it. So in ourselves, we touch it through meditation and the tantric practices, and then we can share it with other people too. So, and it's not just in the sexual context, but it can be in the sexual context. But how do we touch this power? How do we touch this Shakti? We become present. We stop. We pause. We pause for a little bit. When was the last time you paused? When was the last time you actually stopped? Oh, I've got this to do, 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 this to do. Just stop. And come back to center. Come back to your love. Come back to your like. So that's a very important and very easy thing that we can do with practice, because it does take a bit of practice. It's kind of like riding a bike, you know. You have to sort of generally just start, you know, you've got your four-wheeler bike, then you go to the training wheels, then you go to the regular bike, then you go to the 12 speed or the 24 speed. You've got to start somewhere, but that somewhere is right here and right now.
I love that. I love that. And so that's a wonderful practice. That's a wonderful practice that's taking this liking of self, loving of self. And I guess and this pausing, I think that our understanding of sex doesn't include pausing.
No, it
It's kind of
doesn't.
like very based on images of like intense passion where there is absolutely no pausing, but
Yeah.
because sex touches such deep roots of our being, parts of ourselves in sex get touched that might be uncomfortable or more
Yes.
profound than we're used to, or more challenging, or more intimate, or more vulnerable, or maybe we just get afraid, or maybe we just get quiet and get still. How does Tantra teach us to hold those parts of our sexuality that are so culturally unexplained and even disallowed in the sexual arena?
Ken, fantastic question. This comes back to the liking and loving ourselves. Whatever comes up in Tantra, be with it.
That's like
Be
the
with it.
essence of Tantra, right? Is that
Yes.
very thing.
Yeah, be with it. Don't push anything away. Sometimes in practice, you might feel intense love, intense joy, you know. Orgasms of the heart are a thing. They exist, real. So are orgasms of the crown. So are orgasms of the whole body. You know? And often people focus on that because they sound so wonderful. The reason they sound so wonderful is because they are. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But say, for example, you feel fear. Or not only that,
Right.
you feel fear or you see it in your partner. Your partner is feeling fear. The most important thing at that time is to completely and utterly become present. Don't do anything else. Just be present. What this being present does is it uncovers our essential nature. And this essential nature, according to Tantra, this is love. This is deep like. This is acceptance. It's nothing but. It's like you are absolutely 110% perfect, exactly as you are, right here, right now. Now own it.
So
Be
here I
it.
am. Here someone is.
Yes.
during a sexual encounter with their
Yes.
partner and they
Yes.
start feeling fear.
Yes.
And the best that they can do realistically is not to love and adore it, but to make
Mm.
space for it, maybe understand
Yes.
there's pain here and have compassion for that. Does the
Yes.
person do that in a vacuum? Do you share that with your partner? Do you stop sex to do that? Do
Yep.
you, how, when you're holding parts of yourself that are hard to hold in an
Yep.
intimate and not only sexual, but just intimate connection with someone, it's a wonderful idea to like love that part, but probably harder to do. What do you do then?
So you name it. Name it. Name it with your partner.
So you
And
actually
ideally,
kind of stop things and say,
yes,
can
yes,
we
yeah,
talk? This is what I'm feeling. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Very brave,
Even,
right? Very
yeah,
brave.
very brave. In fact, Ken, I would say nothing more intimate than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel fear. I feel insecurity. I feel afraid. I feel unacceptable. I feel unlovable. Nothing deeper or more intimate than that. And because you have an agreement to be together in tantric partnership, your partner will know what to do, which is to become present and just witness you in your vulnerability, which actually is the most strength you could ever have, to be vulnerable and to own those things in yourself and to share them with your partner. That's
Eh,
deep vulnerability, deep strength,
It
and deep
is.
intimacy.
It
Deep
is. And it's
intimacy.
deep safety
Yeah,
too.
it
Yeah.
is deep safety. Yeah.
And
You
not
might,
easy, breathtakingly
not easy,
easy, and not easy for the
not
partner
easy.
necessarily, who might be in a very different place, feeling love, feeling
Yeah,
passion, feeling
totally.
desire, feeling ready to continue and even finish. And and there you are. So it's hard for it can be hard, it can be a stretch, but it's a stretch that is like the act of real love to do.
Yeah,
And
totally. You
and
might have to
one
sort
thing,
of dip your toe in a little bit too. It's not
right,
like you
right.
can go right into, oh my God, I'm feeling my fear from the past 30 years come up. You can you just sort of dip the toe in and say, okay, have an agreement first, of course, with your partner that this is how you're going to approach things. And this is where training in Tantra helps, because you learn, okay, like if my partner is feeling fear or is feeling anxiety or is feeling unlovable, then we stop, we pause, we're present. I witness them in that. We hug. I put my needs to finish secondary, because I am 100% there for my partner. I'm 100% there for their process.
So there's a
So that,
plan. There's a plan that is created
yes, yes,
beforehand of what to
definitely.
do. And let me just say
Definitely.
something about that too, is that this like a next act of self-liking is
Mm,
to share it, but then also to formulate, what do I want from my partner? What
yes,
now would help me feel really seen and held? And maybe
yes,
it's just holding hands in bed,
yeah,
or
yeah,
maybe it's just caressing each other, or maybe it's sharing what's coming up for you, but to actually be able to like give your partner kind of instructions on what would feel most wonderful when you're feeling least wonderful is a
yeah,
very, very empowering act.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, what is that? I mean, that's true partnership, right?
Yes, that's
To
true
actually, that's
partnership.
true partnership. That's acceptance of where you both are at and both of your needs. And one thing I really, really, really love about Tantra is you're training yourself when you're working in partnership. You're training yourself to see the divine in your partner. I mean, in traditional Tantra, you deify your partner in a way. You
Mm.
go, the beauty of consciousness, the beauty of awareness, the beauty of God is in my partner, and I am looking at that right now. I am in the presence of divinity right now.
Yeah.
And your partner is doing that for you too. So I remember when I first learned Tantra, I learned with a beautiful couple, Oceana and Icarus, and they were wonderful. She was a goddess, shining like a goddess. He was like a king. They were just amazing. And I said to them, it's very obvious to me that you really are, honor your practice and love your practice. And what's the key? And she turned to me and smiled and she said, well, I'm his goddess and he's my god. That's how it is. We've made an agreement to deeply explore our sexuality and our spirituality together. That's our agreement.
That's wonderful. And this was an older couple too, by the way, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Just so absolutely and utterly inspiring, those two.
It's wonderful.
And
Wonderful.
yeah.
So, okay, let's talk to the single people who are like on all of the apps and
Mm,
dating and looking for
mm,
a relationship and
mm,
meeting kind of person after person that, it's the rarest thing in the world that you feel like you could touch any of this kind of stuff with them. How do
mm.
people, how can you evolve your I have a few questions around this, but one is, how can you evolve your sexual healing when you're single? And I'm going to ask it two different ways. I'm going to ask it for those folks who are single, looking for a
Mm,
relationship and have sex along the
mm,
way
mm,
with people they're dating or hookups or whatever they do, like folks who are single looking for a relationship but have sex in their
mm,
lives. And then for
mm,
people who don't have sex until they find someone that they fall in love with and they're not at that place now. For each of
mm.
those two people, can you share kind of just any kind of tools?
Sure, sure. So for the people who are dating and doing the whole app thing and trying to connect that way, if you want to start exploring tantrically, if that's what you want to do, be explicit about it. You could say it in your profile. This is what I want to do. I want to explore this way. I want to find someone who wants to do this with me and learn the process together. Now, don't expect that you'll get as many responses as you would if you didn't mention that in your profile. You're going to get less, but what you will probably get, and I've experienced this myself, is you will get higher quality responses. You'll get people saying things like, okay, yeah, look, I'm interested in doing that too. I'd like to get to know you first a bit, if possible, before we do that, because it's such a deep act, right? To work tantrically with someone else. So I'd like to get to know you first, or what's your background, or why do you want to learn this? Or, so it opens up deeper communication immediately. If you put that in your profile, this is what I want to do. It's much more than a swipe thing. Swipe, swipe whichever way. This is much more about a connection. Whether that connection goes anywhere or not, who knows? But the thing is, you've put it out there that you're interested in connecting on a deeper level. And as a result, you're going to attract people who are more interested in that kind of connection. And I hear that over and over again in the retreats that I teach. People are looking for that deeper connection. Even if they're doing the hookup thing, which can be fun at times, a connection is important because it connects us back to our natural love, to our natural light. So yeah, be explicit about it. Say, this is what I want to learn, and see what comes up. Now, for somebody who's single,
Grant, before we
oh
get
yeah,
to somebody who's single, if I could just share a
sure,
thought or two about this and
sure, yeah, go for it.
just kind of reflect on that a little bit. One thing I want to say is that a lot of people won't mean it, and they'll just think it's like kind of new age window dressing on a hookup. So
So true.
there
Yeah,
are
that's true.
definitely those folks. And then there are those folks who don't want real intimacy. They
Mm,
want deeper tantric sex. And I think it's really important to differentiate for yourself if what you're looking for is a real relationship.
mm,
Um, that many of the people that you meet in that other way might not be looking for that committed relationship in the same way. So I just want to
Mm,
mention those things as well. And then I want to
sure.
ask you, what about those folks who are single and aren't necessarily interested in exploring a tantric practice, but are dating and want to be in more friendly alliance with their sexuality and sensuality? What would you suggest for them?
So for the single people, I would say if you're looking for a deeper connection, then one of the ways you can do that, and in my view, the most powerful way you can do that, is connect with your inner sexual energy. And most of us know absolutely nothing about it because we've been told nothing about it. We get a manual for our new car when we buy it. We don't get a manual for our sexual energy when we start to work with it.
Yes.
Or or we can probably put it another way, when our sexual energy starts to work us, because we have no idea how it works. We just feel a desire, we feel the heat of passion, and then we act on it. We don't know where it comes from, we don't know how to
Yeah.
intelligently work with it. So Tantra teaches us that. And the cool thing about Tantra, a lot of people think, okay, Tantra is only for couples. Actually, most people learn Tantra first as a
I
single
love
person.
that. I
Yeah,
love
most
that.
people
Mhm.
do. Because the reason is you start to touch your energy, you locate it, you learn how to move it through the body, you learn how the different feelings that come up with that energy, the different intensities of the energy, you learn how to circulate it. And the thing with this energy is, in the tantric tradition, they call it Kundalini Shakti. So it's a serpentine energy. It's a snake-like energy, but it's the energy that takes us to deeper understanding of ourselves. And it's inherently blissful and delicious and joyful. So when you start to touch it, you want to touch it again and again and again because it's just so delicious and wonderful.
And what will this this is great. What will this give you when you're in a relationship? Like how for the single folks listening who want to do this work, who want to like find that manual and be able to work with their sexual energy in a safe and beautiful way to get them ready
Mm,
for a relationship.
mm.
What when you do that, how does it change who you are in a relationship? What does it give you that's going to make a difference in the new relationship?
Well, you start to accept yourself at a deeper level. You start to
Mm,
accept your sexuality at a deeper level. And you realize that your sexuality is something wonderful that you can share with someone. And
mm.
it's not all about the transaction. What am I going to get? How am I performing right now? Am I doing a good job? Am I getting the satisfaction I want? Am I giving the satisfaction to them they want? No, all of that goes out the window because you just start enjoying the joy of the present moment of sexual expression because you're connecting in with that energy.
So
Yeah, it's a
again, it's this energy of friendliness, friendly
yeah,
love, learning that for
totally.
yourself. And
Yeah.
you're saying learning it in terms of working with your own sexual energy. So I
Mm.
think a lot of people are listening to this and thinking, well, I want to do that. I want to learn about that. And uh, I know that people can work with you to do that, and we're going to be
Hmm.
talking about that. We'll be giving people ways to do that. Are there any books or courses that you also particularly recommend that you think would help people do that? People who don't necessarily aren't ready to do private work yet. Are there books? Are there courses? Anything you respect and recommend?
Oh, there is a book I love, love, love. It's a classic, really. It's what really brought sacred sexuality into the consciousness of many, many Westerners, and I have great respect for the author. I think she's amazing. The Art of Sexual Ecstasy by Margot Anand.
Hmm. Hmm.
And she has deeply worked with these practices herself, and you can tell it when you read the book. But
Hmm.
it gives you a whole way to practice. And I love what you said, Ken, about, if people aren't ready for working privately. Um, this gives you a way to practice by yourself, but that's very deep and that is very structured and beautiful, and it will help you touch the energy. There's a beautiful practice in there called Awakening the Inner Lover, which I love. And it's all about touching that inner loving energy that we've been talking about. So that book in particular.
Could
There
you tell us
are,
that exercise?
sure,
Is
I
it,
definitely
could you
will.
do that briefly?
Yeah.
I
Okay,
just think
everybody.
people are listening to this and so many people are saying, I want as many tools as I can get,
Yeah,
like now.
totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm delighted to do that. Everybody take a comfortable posture, close your eyes and relax your jaw. Relax your jaw, because your jaw, we hold so much tension in our jaw. So much. So relax your jaw. One way you can do that is actually say to your jaw, actually talk to your jaw and say, thank you for relaxing. Thank you for relaxing. Thank you for relaxing. So everybody take a comfortable posture. Close your eyes. And now I'm going to teach you the version that I use from Margot Anand's book. It's an adaptation. It's quite similar. We're going to meet our inner lover. We're going to meet our inner lover in the form of our inner loving energy. So, eyes closed, jaw relaxed. Visualize standing in front of you, your perfect lover. Perfect, beautiful, full of love, full of like. Wonderful, perfect lover. And you also recognize that you, for them, you are their perfect lover. You're perfect for them in every way. Now gaze upon your inner lover. Look with great adoration, with great joy at your inner lover. And you see that they are doing that for you too. They're looking at you with great love, with great like, with great adoration. You are sharing that with each other. Reach out, and your inner lover touches your hand. Feel that loving touch, completely nurturing, completely loving. And now it's your turn. You reach out and you touch their hand, giving love, giving acceptance. And feel how you feel as a result of this. How do you feel as a result? Feel how you feel. Because that's what we're trying to get to here. That inner loving energy. Beyond everything else. That's what we want to get. How do you feel? You feel that loving energy. That's your inner lover. Now holding on to that deliciousness of that energy, that loveliness of that energy, that beautifulness of that energy. When you're ready, and at your own pace and gently, you can open your eyes.
Beautiful, Grant. Thank you.
Most welcome.
I just want to acknowledge, like, one of the reasons that I love your work is that so much sexual and tantric teaching is not trauma informed. And when I say trauma informed, I don't mean just what they call large T traumas, the
Mm,
big, deep violations, but the subtle ones that, we have so many small T traumas around sex and sexuality. And so the focus on friendliness is so reduced. It's assumed that it's going to be there so you can move on to the other stuff, but that's a giant, giant mistake because you're leaving your soul behind. And the magic of the kind of stuff you teach, you got to have your soul there. You got to have your heart there. You got to have your safety there to get that like essence, that golden essence, that thing that's a mixture of sexuality and love and kindness and friendliness, which is just the most beautiful thing of all. So I love that your work is grounded in that deep safety. It's like the Tantra
mm,
of friendliness. And
mm,
I think that makes people feel really safe, A. And B, I think it means that their experiences will be more ecstatic and beautiful and heartwarming. So
mm.
I am so sure that people have so many more questions for you. But unfortunately, we're going to need to come to closing. So I want to ask, will you come back again to answer some of the questions that I know the audience is going to have for you?
Oh, Ken, I'd love it. For sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah, totally. That would be great. I'm looking forward to hearing your questions.
Yes, yes. I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's questions too. So,
Mm,
Grant, how can people learn about your work? Where can they find you? How
mhm,
can they learn from you? Give
mhm.
us all of that. And of course, all of this is going to be in the show notes. And I know that if people go to your website as well, they get a free gift if they sign up for your mailing list. So tell how people can reach you.
Fantastic, Ken. Yes. So, consciouspathways.net is my website. Go and check it out, have a look, and
Mhm.
see the sort of things that are on offer there. I regularly do blogs too. You can have a look at those. One blog that I'm doing that's coming up is talking about how to approach Tantra authentically, what authentic Tantra is. So that's coming up on Saturday. So that's something you could have a look at. Um, I do one-on-one sessions a lot through Skype and through Zoom. You're most welcome to approach me about that. We can talk about your goals, what it is you'd like to achieve through your practice of Tantra and the benefits you can receive from practicing. Also workshops and things. Of course, with the situation right now, it's a little bit tricky, but at some point I have been invited to come over to teach in the US and I'd love to. So I'll keep you in the loop about that. And yes, if you sign up to my mailing list, you'll receive a free dharana like the ones we did today, a centering technique, and it's called a dharana on dating. And it's truly delicious. And you'll have both the recording and the transcript available for you. So I look forward to meeting you, and I hope you really, really found this a useful session today. And I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Grant, thank you so much. I think that you gave so much to people and so much that people don't usually get. And I just love this spirituality of friendliness. It's just really
Mm,
beautiful. And this tantra of friendliness and kind of the whole foundation of the way that you teach. So thank you so much for being here.
thank
We will
you
see
too.
you again. Folks can reach out to Grant. I want to thank you all for being here. I encourage you to visit deeperdatingpodcast.com. And you can get a transcript of this entire episode. And you can also find the whole video there, as well as on YouTube and lots of other places. So thank you, Grant, and thank you, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Deeper Dating Podcast. Thanks,
Thank
Grant.
you.
And that's it for today's episode of Deeper Dating. Be sure to go to deeperdatingpodcast.com as Ken has a few more gifts for you. Then join us on the next episode.